Welcome everyone to Lovecraft Country, Episode 5, Fake Nerds Watch. As I said, this is the 5th episode, full spoilers.
Yeah.
Should always mention that up top.
Strange cases abound, baby.
This one is called Strange Case, and the moment this title popped up, I knew exactly what we were in for.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Aliens.
Totally.
Yes.
Robots.
Alien robots.
Alien robots.
Yeah.
Daleks.
Oh, man.
We all
Doctor
should
Who.
have seen it coming.
Doctor Who crossover. There's been Lovecraft stuff in Doctor Who, right? I'm sure.
He's met the devil. Does that count?
No.
I mean, like, the devil was designed in a very Lovecraft way, but no, it doesn't count.
That's just like a dude in a pit.
I think Torchwood did more Lovecraft stuff.
I haven't seen it, but I would believe that one.
Yeah.
I liked Torchwood.
Speaking of Torchwood, man, the torches are real lit with this episode, right, guys? Because it's so good.
Yes.
I'll go ahead and say
This
was a great episode.
This one is probably my favorite episode because I think it had some excellent character stuff for a lot of the characters, and much like the thesis for the episode, a lot of metamorphosis for a lot of the characters in many ways, including theories we were all right on, but not in the way we all thought. I bet.
It was a lot more gruesome.
Yeah.
Than I anticipated. One of the things that I was so CBR, they have posted an article saying Lovecraft Country does their take on Jeckyll and Hyde. That was the headline of the article. I didn't read it. But knowing that and knowing what our theories were from last week, that William and Christina are more than likely inhabiting the same body,
right.
I immediately took that as confirmation that that's what they were talking about. Like, okay, we were right. Before I even seen the episode.
See, I didn't because, you could assume like it's a Dr. Jeckyll thing, but my mind didn't go to that because as soon as the episode starts, we see a strange case in itself. So I figured that was what the episode was going to be, and maybe we will get. I was sure we were going to get the William Christina thing, but my mind immediately didn't go to them because I'm like, oh, we're going to get that anyway, no matter what. When the way the episode starts, I'm like, oh,
yeah,
what?
The episode starts, and I was like, oh, actually, I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, I think when we were talking about theories of what William having sex with Ruby was going to lead to, the bottom of the list was make her white.
Yes. And we learned it's not the act of the doing that did it, but like I think that was our first. Like, oh man, he's got like super sperm. Oh my god, he's got like. It's like, oh man, my mind was racing with ideas, and luckily we figured it out pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Something horrific.
The best transformations of the Van Helsing type of transformation.
The werewolf from Van Helsing taken up to its next notch. Yeah,
that's my favorite type of werewolf transformation.
I'll never forget the first time Ruby transforms back, and you just see the eye in her mouth screaming.
In the mouth, yeah. Yeah. That's something.
It's fantastic.
So yeah, that's the opening of the episode.
Plot.
She wakes up in a white body.
She's stretching.
Our lovely hero, Ruby.
She's in a beautiful mansion or wherever she was with William. It's like, whoa, uh-oh.
And she's not just any white lady.
No.
She is the racist white lady from the village.
Yes.
Who was guarding Montrose.
Did you not catch that, Brandon?
I didn't.
Yeah. So at the beginning, when we were watching at the beginning of the episode, I was like, that looks like that lady from the village. But I don't think any of us were 100% certain.
No, I said the next scene she showed up, I'm like, that's straight up her.
Yeah.
I think I did it under my breath, but like you were right that was it.
But I was like, so what does that mean for that character then? Because I believe the last thing we saw was her just like getting like beat up or knocked out or something, right? Like we don't know.
She got full on face hit with that shovel.
Right. That's what I mean. The last thing we saw was her.
We assume she's dead.
Yes. So.
Well, that hold on. I need to process because that changes everything how I see this episode.
Like it's not just like a magic spell. Like she's drinking a vial of something, which could be like almost like a polyjuice potion from Harry Potter, basically, is what it is. But maybe a more gruesome version. We're like, that person's now dead, and now we have their essence. Which is just like, can they do that with any character? Then can they do that with any character? Like, are some of these other characters not who they say?
Do they have to be dead?
Do they have to be dead? Like. A can of worms have opened up.
What does that mean for Christina and William?
Exactly. Which
Yeah.
we'll get to. Yeah.
Yes, we'll talk about that towards the end of the episode for sure.
I love that you didn't. It's cool that got revealed for you. I love that because the whole internet was like, that's the same lady, and then it's like go to the IMDb. I'm like, yeah, it's the same lady. Yeah.
Jesus, that's wild.
It's cool. But yeah, Ruby wakes up and
I definitely thought like that character got featured in a way where I'm like, we're gonna see more of that actress somehow, right?
Yeah,
and
so
when she
like,
got hit with the shovel, I was surprised.
I assume she'll loop back around.
And this is not how I expected her to turn up again.
Yeah,
but cool. Yeah, so she freaks out, obviously, and so she leaves and she starts wandering through the town, and she's an hysterical white lady.
Yeah,
that is looking for help. She bumps into a black child on accident.
Yeah. And
the cops freak out.
Like they're there like in a second. It's like they're just like waiting for something to happen.
And they come to her defense real quick and call him an animal.
Yeah.
Like
what did he do to you?
The racist white people of this show.
And Ruby,
and life,
being a white lady, she's like she puts her hands up with the kid because she's obviously a black lady. And then when the cops go to the kid, she's like, oh, I see.
Yeah, and it takes her a beat, but she's able to get the cops to leave him alone.
Yeah,
because she says that he's just trying to help me.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't do anything.
Yeah, they were sent by William to find her.
They were sent by William. And they have information about her as William's wife.
Yes.
That she is off her meds, essentially. And so the cops are working off that knowledge and decide to take her back. And meanwhile, in the back of the car, her body is feeling kind of funky.
Do her eyes change back there?
No,
not yet.
They change when she lays on the floor.
Got it.
Back in the room. William comes out to the police car to grab her and carry her into the house.
Yeah.
And she transforms back into Ruby.
Well, he cuts her open.
He cuts her open.
Oh, man.
And then she does the rest of the work.
So
some really great body horror in this episode.
Yeah. So during this scene, I'm still unsure of how the transformation happens because it looks like William like has to help her transform or something because he's doing some knife work, right? It turns out later you don't need that. He's just like expediting it, or he just wants to get involved because he's crazy. I don't know. But it's like really gross.
Well, I think he has to.
Yeah.
There's an implication that William gives that
like the first time
time is the worst. And it's painful, and no time after will it ever be such a traumatic experience.
Gotcha. Yeah. So you have to get used to it and stuff. Yeah.
You have to be cut out of your cocoon, and then you could do it on your own.
And then he gives like the whole spiel about like how like he found out this magic and stuff, right? Or the science
he had a connection to Epstein.
Yes.
He was doing a lot of experiments, and he got in touch and connected with Epstein.
And he's like, you want to know,
furthered his knowledge of this type of magic and things.
And he directly references like the soul, and I'm like, oh, William, speaking my language, like body switching reversals. I'm like, oh, we're getting into like spiritual shit. And he's like, he said like Epstein was looking for a path or something, but he made a doorway instead or something. Yeah. Which might implicate that like that he let something in, maybe like a William or something. I don't know. But yeah, it seems like William is like he took the stuff from Epstein, and it's like he wasn't working with them, but he stole it, or what?
It's not super clear.
Okay.
I think okay. So if we'll really dive into this. I wanted to save it for near the end, but if William is in fact an entity unto himself, currently, then that story would not be from Christina's perspective, and would in fact be from William's. And William, as a lodge member, would have had a strong connection with Epstein and these experiments and everything. Which would explain how Christina would know about it.
Yes.
But not everything necessarily to do with it. We'll get into that later. That's kind of taking Christina's story at face value.
Yeah.
Which we don't have a clear answer on yet, so we'll have to wait and see.
Still
probably 2 weeks to see.
Yeah.
But I want to talk about that more later. But for now, what William offers is her the option to go about her day as a white woman. He leaves the vial and he leaves the money.
Yeah, a big thing of money.
Thing of money.
Hey, just go enjoy your day. Just have a good day.
Go do it or don't.
And there's a really nice moment. I think it's here where Ruby's like, why, out of all the people in the world, why would you pick me? And he just goes, why not you?
Right.
And I'm like, that's like a very much like...
she says, I know I'm not special enough for you to just do this.
And I think that's kind of sweet. It seems like I don't know. I mean, obviously William is using her, but I wonder how much. It seems like there is a little bit of like, oh, I actually do like you in some aspect, a little bit.
So that's the other part of it that makes me think William. Again, like I want to dig into it later, but I just make a footnote here. I do believe that William is an entity unto himself at this moment because I do believe William has affection for Ruby, and I don't think that's coming from Christina.
Yeah, I agree.
I do think that's actually coming from William.
Yes.
Brandon, thoughts at this moment?
This episode is the one that made me kind of come around to what you were talking about last week, that the idea that Christina and William are two different people.
I think there's a lot of nuggets.
They're not playing the same person. They're just, we see them oftentimes back to back, and they're just not the same person.
It almost like another show's comparison, almost like a Crazy Jane from Doom Patrol, where she has like multiple personalities.
For sure,
but this is a much more physical transformation.
Yeah. What William says about Epstein, the way William speaks to Ruby, thinks of Ruby, regards Ruby, doesn't feel in line with other things we see Christina do or say, whether to Ruby or to other people.
Yeah.
And that really does drive me to the point. We'll get into it later. She mentions a story about how she met William, and I think that's true. And I think that story is true. And I think that she did save him, and the way she saved him is by taking him into herself.
Real quickly, conversely, William doesn't have that childlike wonder that we saw Christina have in the last episode.
Yeah,
right.
That's true.
I agree. William has never shown that same kind of. William doesn't have the personality traits that seem to line up with that moment you suggested, or the moment where she bursts the Shoggoth out of the cow. I do think that like there are distinct personality traits we've seen enough. Plus, Christina's fascination is clearly Atticus.
Yes.
And William has a separate fascination for Ruby, and the two do not feel like they match to each other, which makes them feel distinct and separate.
It feels like it's one person who is doing two different things to achieve the same goal. It's like, I don't know. Again, like I don't know if they're actively working together, William and Christina, but it's like, yo, I'll go through Atticus and I'll try this side way. And
I'd say they're absolutely working in conjunction with each other.
So like, hey, we'll try part A and we'll try part B, and hopefully one of us can get there.
I do
cover all avenues.
Yeah, I do not think that their relationship is contentious.
Yeah. They just have to switch.
Well, I want to really dig at that when we get to the end of it, after we lay out some of the pieces that lead to it. So Ruby's left with that choice. That's kind of the button open for the episode. And we move from that to Atticus and Letty.
Yes.
Coming upon Montrose, who says Yahima, the intersex character from the previous episode, is gone.
Yeah, it's not coming back.
And Atticus is upset about this, and he asks about the pages. Montrose doesn't really give an answer, which is an answer unto itself, that they're gone. And Atticus knows in that moment that Montrose killed her.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Killed them. He knows. Yeah. He knows immediately. And he goes off on Montrose for it. Viciously.
Yeah.
So much so that two other men have to come in and pull him away from beating his father.
You know, I got the impression that Montrose was like okay with getting this beat. Like he was like, I deserve this.
Deserve it. Yeah.
He absolutely, I think, is. I think there is an amount of there's an amount of blackness on his soul, and I do mean like darkness on his soul, for this action. I'd even be willing to cross a line to say that Montrose has never taken a life before.
Yeah.
I'd almost be willing to go up to that point. I don't know why Montrose would have. We know he'd never fight in a war because he doesn't believe in fighting for the white man, for a country that doesn't love them.
Yeah. Right.
So I would argue that this is probably the first person he's ever killed.
Yeah.
I'd buy it.
That being said, we don't know that for sure, and certainly Atticus catches on to it really quick. But I would argue that Atticus might have that insight from being a person who has been in war. He knows what it looks like when you first kill someone.
Yeah,
sure.
So
I think he beats him hard. Like he would have killed him. He probably would have killed him.
I think Montrose is bearing a whole lot of weight for what he did,
and kind of deservedly.
Yes, but I think that is key. I do think that this is that it even though it happened so fast, it seems so easy at the end of the last episode. I think that is the first time Montrose has taken a life, and I do think that largely plays into the rest of his story in this episode. That he is living with that knowledge. I think it's even less how Atticus feels about what he did, and more just how he himself feels about what he did.
Yeah.
So real quickly, what we talked about last week, and Sparkz, I think you speculated that this episode would be primarily Ruby centered.
Yes.
That is absolutely true. And I didn't expect this episode to have a B plot of Montrose centered, and which led Atticus and Letty to be the C plot, and a very minimal role that we've seen them have in the series so far.
Yes.
I appreciated that. I thought that shows that the writers are willing to pull back on our main characters so that we could get to know the other characters, their story, and how they influence the story that's being told.
I mean, like there is a solid argument to be made that each episode up to this point has had a specific character in mind.
Sure.
The first episode would be Atticus. The second would have been George. Mm-hmm. The third episode would have been Letty, followed by Montrose, and now Ruby. We are very pointedly each episode narrowing in on a specific character thematically, in a pretty big way. And I think that trend has continued. And now we're halfway through the season out of 10 episodes, and we're about to go back to Atticus. So we'll see how that cycle continues.
Don't forget, there's also Hippolyta.
Hippolyta's out there
going back to Arnold.
Boy, we're not going to see what happened with her for a while.
I'm curious because when we get to it, I'll bring her up. But there's stuff involving, like, some people bring us some stuff which is directly involved with what she deals with in the book.
Yeah.
Real quickly, what you're talking about, like how all these characters are definitely there's a thematic relevance to each character that's been sort of the focus. But this is definitely the least we've seen of Atticus and Letty in the series so far.
Yes, 100%. Oh yeah.
And I just kind of really appreciate that choice to just trust that these characters are good enough that they'll hold on and they'll hold them. I forgot my other point. Never mind. Let's go. Let's keep going.
I think what helps this episode a lot is we've gotten just enough of Ruby up to this point to really be invested in her, have the details of her, but never have had her explored. So we've been waiting for this.
I just got it back. Okay. On the thing about Hippolyta, Hippolyta is the only case of the show asking a question and then not immediately answering it in the next episode. But because everything has been so...
I agree, except for the phone number, which we didn't get an answer to until this episode.
Fair point.
That was in the first episode, and we were left on that loop. We had our theories. Our theories were correct. But yeah.
But either of those plot points are kind of like pushed away from the audience's mind because of how much this show covers. This show does this. I saw a tweet like, this show does more in an episode than some shows do in a season.
It's for real. Yeah,
that's incredible. The amount that these writers are balancing. You just got to give them a round of applause every episode.
Letty in one episode, her episode has had more of a character arc than the boys on Supernatural have had in 6 years.
Yeah.
So
sorry, Jensen.
I'm not sorry.
Hey, but they both get Impalas.
They're not allowed because those characters aren't allowed to grow, and these characters are. So it's a big difference.
Yeah, I just think that's a testament to how great the show is.
For sure,
the show is struggling.
So don't at me, Supernatural fans.
So are we at Ruby going out now?
So it's
after the Atticus stuff?
Atticus beating Montrose, and he got thrown off. We'll return to those characters. So Ruby has a montage of going around as a white woman, being able to get ice cream without having to pay for it, being able to sit on a bench and not be bothered. A woman uninterrupted, as Ruby likes to say.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a crazy thing for someone to experience after you've experienced the other end of that spectrum.
Yes.
For so long. And even William S., like, I saw the money was still on the table. Why didn't you take it? It's like, I didn't need it.
Yeah. Because I had the currency. I had the only currency you need. Whiteness.
That comes up a little later in the episode. But that is a key line in the official podcast. They talk about how contentious writing this story idea was.
Oh, I believe it. Yeah.
And how they felt about it on a lot of angles, and kind of like the heartbeat line that sold it is Ruby having the chance to say that the only currency I needed was whiteness. Really paying off that if I was in your skin, I wouldn't even need to run the rat race from the previous episode.
Good movie.
Yeah.
Is it?
I saw it ages ago.
Yeah.
I think I saw it when it came out in 2000.
I don't know if it is. I think back and I'm like, is Rat Race good?
I just think of Rowan Atkinson, and I think he's good, but he's always good.
John Cleese, Seth Green.
Oh yeah, they're in it.
Yeah,
John Cleese is in it. Come on.
He's the rat race being on maybe 5 minutes and getting paid $1 billion, I bet. Speaking of money.
Sorry to derail this.
So Letty finds Atticus and reveals that she took pictures of the pages, and she now has them developed. So it's something that he can decode.
Well, but that's after he freaks out, asking her if she had taken pictures of the pages, and she comes with a bat because she's scared of him.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
That's a good moment.
Yeah. That's a tense moment. Yeah, because he races down. That's right after he beat Montrose.
Yeah.
That is a good moment where Letty's got that fear. So she does reveal the pictures of the pages that are developed, and they talk about how him going after Atticus like that scared her. The official podcast talks about this a lot. I think their conversation's well worth listening to on its own, so I'm not going to go too deep into it, but I'd argue about half of the episode is honestly just talking about Atticus's relationship with Montrose and the willingness to display that violence, both as a just representation of childhood and parenthood abusive relationships, and also a black man beating someone violently. And it's pretty tough, but I think honest when Atticus says that he's thought about killing his father more than once. About that kind of violence, like because Letty asked, "Would you have killed him?" And he said, "I've thought about it plenty of times."
I'm glad you stopped me.
Yeah, he's glad he was stopped.
And he also says like, I had like so much hate, and like I didn't want to be like him, but like I am, and like I don't want you to hate me. Like I don't want you to be scared of me.
Right.
And they have such
because she reveals she's very scared of this side of him.
And he's crying, and like the one person he's opened up to, and like he like is like a connection. Like he potentially could have like beaten up or something, right? Like he was in such a rage, and like I completely understand someone like not too personal, but like coming from a toxic household and like trying to avoid those toxic past and like not wanting to relive it. I get that. And that acting is so good between both of them. It feels so real, which is again comes up later with like with Montrose. Like the stuff with him feels so real too.
Yeah.
A lot of really good emotion.
Yeah, the two, Montrose and Atticus, I think they have a. If Atticus inherited one thing from Montrose, it was definitely his rage.
Yeah.
Right. Because I think there's an argument that that's all he probably got from him.
Yeah, because that's all he saw from him.
For the most part.
Yeah.
That and I would argue he also inherited, just like George. It's George's too, but Montrose, we know, has a deep affection for books. And that similar vein of that affection did pass on to Atticus, because we know in the first episode he kind of regards it. That's like the only thing he kind of speaks fondly of about Montrose is his love of books.
Yeah,
but that doesn't change that really stark abusive relationship, and it's a deeply honest conversation to be had about being a child of that kind of abuse. And you're going to think about retribution and the chance to take it. And all Atticus needed was an excuse, and he got it. so he took it.
Yeah.
But
This
even
does
Letty, when Letty asks, like, why did you do that if she just left? And he says
that doesn't come up till later. It's actually not in the scene. It's in a later
I thought
scene.
it was in this scene.
It's not. I have it in the notes. I was checking just to see if that was brought up here, and it's not. He brings that up later. That's not even part of this conversation. It is, which I really liked. I really liked that it's not part of this conversation because it's not about was there a good reason to trigger this in the moment. It's like there was no good reason enough for me to want to kill him. Yeah. There's no good excuse enough for me to murder my father in this moment.
Yeah.
And that's all the conversation's about, and I really appreciate that. That's why I wanted to check.
And I will wait till we get to it.
Yeah, I know what point you were going for, but that's why I wanted to, because this is all about Atticus admitting and facing the fact that he has that in him, and telling Letty that he doesn't want to, that he doesn't want her to be scared of him, that he doesn't want to carry that, and that leads to the most intimate moment we've seen between the two of them, for them as a couple and for their love making.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really sweet moment.
Yes. So after this is when we see Ruby coming back to William, and that's when she asks why he chose her, all this stuff. Ruby is concerned because William says that all he needs is just a favor in return, just one.
It's inconsequential
favor. Yeah.
No NBD. No big deal.
Which makes me still question William's choosing of Ruby, though. Once we know what the favor is later, why it had to be Ruby, why Ruby, how much William actually feels for her, because I do feel like he feels something.
Yeah.
And where that comes from.
Yeah, that's another thing in the Christina and William being different people thing, because you get the impression that Christina is not on board with Ruby being involved. Ruby specifically.
Sure. Yes.
Maybe because even though she's not directly tied to what Atticus is doing, she is a tangential.
She understands that Letty and Atticus are part of a thing, and she doesn't want to involve too much else.
Yeah, it's too close. Like
yeah,
you're too close to the pot that we're stirring.
Right. This is the part where she mentions the line we talked about earlier. The only currency I needed is whiteness. How she got through the whole day, because William was curious why she didn't take any of the money. Mm-hmm. And he leaves it in Ruby's hands to decide how much she decides to use this or not, what she wants to do with it. And Ruby decides that she's going to go interview for that job at Marshall Fields.
Yeah.
As a white woman, with her exact same experience.
Hilary Davenport.
Yes. And in the interview, it goes super simple. Not a problem at all.
Yeah.
Except she starts coming apart in the chair.
Because there's a time limit.
Yep. So Ruby accepts the job offer, but has to get out of there right quick. And she starts smearing blood on the wall and coming apart in pieces as she gets to an elevator.
Does the manager ask her if she's okay working with colored people then? During the interview?
Oh, it's like, how do you feel about colored people?
Yeah, how do you feel about colored people?
And again, Ruby's like, if she's well qualified, then it doesn't matter. Right. And he's like, and the manager's like, we've had a couple girls quit because of all the snafu. And he's like, I don't care. Doesn't matter to me.
Right.
Like, cool. Assistant manager. She's like, oh, that was so easy. Being white is, oh, God.
Right.
It's so easy.
Leaps and bounds.
Jesus.
When she's in the elevator and her face like cracks.
Yeah. I love it.
She whips her head and
Big fan.
Following that, we get Montrose coming to Stevie.
It's Stevie, right? I think it's Stevie.
I think it's Stevie.
Yeah.
And he's beaten.
Yeah.
And Stevie wants to take care of him, but Montrose
has
something very particular in mind he wants, which is confirmation of Montrose's homosexual relationship with Stevie.
Yes. And it appears that this is like it's a booty call thing. It's not a it's not like a
it's not framed romantic.
It's not framed romantically. It's like, like, it's time.
Stevie wants to embrace him in a romantic way, and Montrose
pushes him back and
wants to have sex.
This is only sex. Sorry,
there's an aggression he wants to get out in some way, but it's not punishing to Stevie.
No.
There's a very key shot when Montrose's hands are first on Stevie, that focuses on the fact that Montrose still wears his wedding ring.
Yes.
Which I think speaks volumes about the character. I would go so far as to say that what we're learning is that Montrose is bisexual.
Yeah.
But that there's no real term or understanding of that at the time.
Mhm.
I mean, the term exists, but like there's no real concept of it in any kind of way that people are as open to how that spectrum works or anything.
Yeah.
And I would also venture, just with what we know about Montrose and George's history with his wife.
Yes.
I forget her name.
But
That Dora, yeah.
Explorer?
I think it's something like that.
I'm gonna look it up.
So Montrose still has so much affection for her, and we know that they were young and growing up together.
Yeah.
It was George and her and Montrose. They were all three of them growing up together. So there's an argument to be made that Montrose never even really thought about it till after she was gone.
Yeah.
Or never really considered it or anything. But now we are seeing that, like, even though he has this deep affection for his deceased wife, he still also has a deep affection for Stevie.
Yep.
Yeah, I really appreciated that. Like that it wasn't that it is framed as a initially as just like, you know, I just need to get my rocks off. I need to get this aggression off. And then it's decidedly not. And there is an affection between the two of them.
Yeah.
There's a tenderness. You know, you can always tell it's almost that like he's going hard and then he starts to soften.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't mean in a silly way. I mean literally like the way he grips Stevie is really tight and with a sense of aggression behind it. And after that it becomes more tender.
Yes. It is Dora.
Yeah.
Cool.
We leave them to go back to Ruby as Davenport, interrogating the black girl that works there, Tamara, and learning that her education is much less than hers.
Yes. Yeah.
She's far less qualified than Ruby was.
Right.
Yeah. So Ruby expected this girl to be like, I don't know, like a college graduate or something like. Not that like necessarily you need that, but like she expected something of high standards for this girl, and she's a high school dropout, and she applied for the job and she got it. She's just a regular girl. And
you can extrapolate from that Hugh, the boss who hired her, hired Tamara because he was sexually attracted to her.
Yes.
And that's pretty much the only
reason.
What?
Mr. Mulligan? Him and his 6 kids? He's so sweet.
He's so Christian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
That's right, because right after she talks to Tamara and learns that she's having a moment with the white women and how they talk about the colored folk and all that super
awful
fun stuff that she's just kind of there for now.
Yeah.
And able to be a part of, but also be alienated inside of as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a weird and uncomfortable. That's a weird kind of uncomfortable scene.
Yeah, I agree.
Just knowing Ruby's in that room in that way, but being part of these conversations, like, oh, I don't know how to talk to them, that kind of thing.
Do you think they could take us to the south side?
Yeah.
And it's interesting that Ruby, because of the girl's, what's the word? Status, I guess.
Sure.
Ruby is feeling a little prejudiced towards her because she's like, you got it, but I didn't, and I'm far more qualified. But she is still willing to try to defend her to these women.
There's an upsetness, but it's not upset at Tamara because it's not Tamara's fault.
It's selfishness in a way. Like she's mad that they're like, oh, like what makes her better than me? And it's like nothing. That's not the whole point of it. Like you both were probably qualified. You just didn't do it. Like she's taking it out on the wrong person.
Yes.
I wouldn't even argue that she takes it out on Tamara. The only times that she really shows aggression towards Tamara isn't is her when she's freaked out later.
Yeah.
And she's doing it in a way where, like, yes, she's scaring Tamara, but she's scaring Tamara to keep Tamara smart.
Yeah.
It's also protective, which is a type of, like, is something they talk about on the podcast, not necessarily in this episode, but in general, about Black love, Black raising, community love is letting you know, like, when you need to be on guard, making you afraid so you're smart. And that's what Ruby's trying to do in that scene later.
Is that the scene, like when she's talking to all the girls in a room when they start dancing too?
Yes.
Okay, so that song, I forget what the song's called, but that is a song in the show by a white person. The song's originally by a Black person, and they chose the white version for that song, for that scene,
Of course,
because it's a white person cover, and I'm like, that's very funny and smart.
That's how that goes.
Yeah. Again, with the music choices, very apt and
oh yeah, music's fantastic.
Can I rant just briefly? It won't take long. The fact that Black people had to develop that system of be scared, be smart is awful.
Yeah. Yes.
Awful. How dare we treat them so poorly?
And I hate to say it, but it's still true today because that's how they have to talk about specifically cops more than anything else, but just in general,
just
welcome to America.
It is just that mankind's evilness will never cease to amaze me.
You got 1950s Lovecraft Country, or you watch The Boys in 2020. It's alive everywhere.
The most sinister thing about it is creating a system where everyone or the majority of people, I should say, because not everyone certainly, but the majority of people will just accept those things that happen as normal. Yeah. That's just how it is, you know. Thank goodness that we're at least at a point where we try to push back.
Yeah,
we've always tried to push back, and it always moves incrementally. Lots of people have, but at least that we're still doing that we're still seeing it. Thank goodness for that. Thank goodness that this show is part of that.
Can't stop the fight.
Part of that conversation.
Just sucks that we have to keep fighting.
Yeah, it does. It does. And we're white, and we feel that way. So I can only imagine how they feel.
Exactly.
I don't mean to like.
No, for sure. But it's upsetting because we're empathetic people who give a shit. Yeah, I get it. Back to the episode though. I'm with you, and it sucks. It does suck. William picks her up in a real nice car with some real nice music. Real, hey, what up?
And like all the girls are outside. I'm like, oh, who's that handsome man?
Yeah, he's kind of embarrassing her.
Yeah,
they make out, and it's her husband. That's how they play it. But he reveals that it's time for that favor, and he's like, "Yeah, I've got a little outfit in the back. I think it's going to fit you perfectly." And it's a waitress outfit.
Yeah, it's like
a servant.
Yeah, like one of those catering servers.
Ruby's pissed, but Ruby goes, and Ruby's serving out the stuff she needs to
the Sons of Adam.
Yep.
So hey man,
visiting at the captain's place that we saw in the previous
Lancaster,
episode.
that super jerk.
Yeah,
with the guy in the closet,
which is not. Wait! Before we go there, okay. Christina meets up with Ruby.
Yeah,
that's the and
Christina she was told to meet somebody there, and it turns out the person she was meeting is Christina, right?
Yeah. Well, he said, I think he said her by name.
Miss Braithwaite. He said
Miss Braithwaite,
yes.
yeah.
But he did not make it seem like they are connected.
Correct.
He said, you're going to meet this lady, Miss Braithwaite, there.
Yeah.
Which was you're trying to be sneaky, man. But
right. Which is where we meet Christina at the party, and Ruby's pissed off, but Christina calls her. And she says, all I need you to do is put this thing in the captain's room.
Put this rock. It looks like a rock.
Yeah.
It's a magic rock.
Yeah, magic rock. And there's Ruby is clearly uncomfortable, and she's like, I can't do this and everything. And Christina tells her a story about how the captain shot William in the back.
Mm-hmm.
And Christina found him and saved his life.
Yes. And
right there is when I went, tell me the story. Tell me the story about how you saved his life. By taking him into yourself.
It's Dragonheart.
Yeah. That's it. It's Dragonheart.
Yeah. So what I think happened is definitely the Dragonheart angle. I didn't even think about that, but yeah, totally. I think the experiment was not meant to fuse two people. Like two living people.
Okay.
Right.
So they're an anomaly in whatever experiment that William was trying to pull off. That's what I think.
Maybe. I don't know if it was necessarily unintentional, because whatever she did, if her story is true, which at this moment I think it is, Christina found him dying and knew that this would be the only way to keep him alive.
Okay. All
but
right.
Ruby doesn't have a living person inside of her.
No, I understand. I don't think that the experiments are the same. I think they are of a similar vein. Because remember, it's not a path, it's a door. So there's not just one way about this whole thing.
Yeah.
True.
So I do think that what's going on with Ruby is an offshoot of the same idea of what Christina and William did.
Yeah.
And I certainly think that that's intentional. I certainly think that what they want you to think at the end of this episode is mostly to lean towards what Ruby says at the end, which is that Christina and William was Christina the whole time. They're the same.
Yeah.
But I do not believe that. I think that they are a slightly different variation of the experiment.
So
Right, was that what you were going to say?
I imagine that, yes, they are two different types of the same magic. I think the way that Christina can come out is only through this type of magic that Ruby is using. That's the only way for them to have their duality, is through this type of magic. But it's only a physical thing for Ruby, where it is an actual personality thing for those two. You guys see what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, they're using like the same thing, but it's doing double for them because they're actually two personalities.
The metamorphosis is more than just physical; it also is of the soul.
Yes, it is of the soul. Yes, which is the whole thing William was talking about earlier.
Because also in the way that both talk about each other,
yeah,
doesn't make them sound like they're being cheeky about their alter ego.
Yeah.
It's like they're talking about.
I'm still not convinced that William is just a dude, though. I still think when she says like I saved his life, that just screams to me like, yo, he was like some Cthulhu beast, and then he got turned into a human.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Because he has a line earlier where he says, "This is how it works for humans."
Yes, and I know that could just be his phrasing, but like, I still think he's very otherworldly. Whereas Christina, like you even mentioned earlier, Brandon, she has more like human whimsy, where he seems like he's detached in a way.
If I were to build a theory around what you're saying. I would say that William is something that the lodge members maybe accidentally summoned.
Yes.
And they shot him out of fear, because William's not some inherent member of the lodge.
Yes.
This is my theory, not necessarily what they've said. But Christina, being a person who cares for those kinds of things, like we saw caring for the Shoggoth.
Exactly. That's what
she cares for him. And offers him this in exchange for like a better understanding of the language of Adam and things like that.
Let me be in your body,
right?
And we can change the world together. But I want to still be my own person.
So William is a manufactured male form for this being.
Yes,
with Christina.
Yes, that's what I'm thinking. Because exactly. The Shoggoth baby raising, and then I helped him survive. I immediately just think of a monster again.
Right.
Like I don't think that's on accident.
Yeah.
Which makes me excited. We're going to see some crazy William monsters soon.
Right. Because that would explain
the
choice of this kind of male form would explain why William looks so much like Christina and her father.
Exactly.
It's a male form modeled after Christina, but it is not a person, not a human that was taken into her.
It's a skin job. It's Men in Black.
Which would explain why Christina's so adept and fast at picking up a whole lot of magic shit that none of the other lodge members did.
So then did Christina create the potion?
I think that's an Epstein. Isn't that like a
The hint is that it's at least designed from Epstein.
Yeah.
Which I think Epstein could have also been part of because we know there's a connection between Epstein and the cops.
Because
so Epstein could have worked with the cops and accidentally summoned that creature that is William. The captain shoots him. Christina saves him. And he teaches her all this magic stuff. So William makes the potion because he knows how.
Also, don't forget, we'll get to it, but like the stuff with the cops, what they're doing is also a type of transformation.
We'll get to it right now because that's what happens next. Is Ruby goes into the room and she has to hide in that closet where there is in fact not a black dude like we suppose, but a white dude
with skin grafts,
bound up with skin grafts.
Looks like Frankenstein.
And we see the captain's shirt come off, and his whole torso and chest area is black.
Yeah.
And stitched in.
So we have multiple types of transformations, metamorphoses going on with people. This is definitely a more Frankenstein approach than a like more magical or spiritual way. I don't know if that means that those are Frankenstein people or they just got skin grafted, like black put onto them. I'm not sure. I don't know how crazy it goes.
I wonder if they're skin grafting white on them.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I think that they are using black parts to repair things that get damaged.
Okay.
So the captain was probably injured in a hard way in his torso chest area.
Yeah.
They replaced the whole thing with a black person.
But I wonder, like, for story reasons.
That happened in a show that I recently watched. A similar thing where they were Get Out.
I was gonna say no. Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know why they would be grafting white onto them. Also, I think their faces would still come out kind of different,
and they're just like also super racist. So it's like,
and that's the whole thing is that their lodge and everything they're connected to saw black bodies as disposable. So why they would go the other way, I'm not sure.
My only theory was because Atticus is the maybe the last like remaining son of Adam or whatever.
Sure,
they maybe were trying to find other sons of Adam and use their skin, almost like Domino and X-Force. We're using their skin to like fake out maybe the portal or something. You know what I mean?
But that doesn't totally work because
exactly. I'm not sure
how many descendants could there be from that line. There can't be that many that are black.
No, of course, and that's what I mean. Like, I'm not sure the reason of just doing like just skin, or which is like, okay, so if it's not skin, is it full torso? He is a Frankenstein man.
Because the thing is, like, the history's not long enough. That would be more or less some kind of direct relation to Dora that you'd think would have been mentioned.
Yeah, it's just such a wrinkle. And like, what, we just don't have enough information. Like, yo, why is there a dude who's half white and half black in locked up? Like, what is the story behind that?
I also really liked how it's framed. We never see a full-on shot of that scene. It's always through the blinds that Ruby is looking through.
Sure.
Yeah.
He has the one part where it's a closer shot and you can kind of see it under the buttoning up shirt, but
yeah.
There's one shot where it's like he's shirtless through the blinds, but like, yo, that is a different skin color for sure.
It's all like the whole thing in the middle is,
and it's so gross because that dude is just like spitting up blood, and Ruby puts her hand to his mouth so he'd be quiet, but he's just like oozing down her wrist. It's like, oh, it's so gross.
Which freaks her out.
Yeah.
Which takes her to the scene where she is shouting at Tamara.
Oh yeah.
This is actually let's jump to it now because there's a scene in between, but we'll talk about it later. She is shouting at Tamara because she's afraid.
Yeah.
She's scared. And she's scared for her. And she's like, you can't even slip up a little bit because they'll kill you.
Do you know what they do to us?
Yes, exactly. And Hugh sees that and he's all like, what's happening? What's happening over here? Are you okay? And she's like, oh yeah, I'm just talking to Tamara. Tamara's going to take us to the south side. Right, Tamara? Tamara's going to take us to the south side.
I sure am.
Guess so. Yeah. But what really comes next after Ruby is shut in that closet is Atticus has a nightmare about his ancestor running through the fire.
Oh, right.
And she turns, watching him burn. And it says something that he can't hear.
Mm-hmm.
And she watches him burn alive.
Yes.
And then he wakes up. And Letty's there.
Hey, girl.
And he reveals that he's working on deciphering the language of Adam. And he's basing it around initials in his ring. The initials that he thinks stand for his name are on the ring. Mm-hmm. And they're in the language of Adam. And he's trying to use it to decode. But he's getting confused by a whole lot of other things that could also cross-reference with it.
What is it? It's S-A-F? Is what he thinks it is?
ASF?
Yeah, Atticus something.
ASF, yeah.
Yeah, Atticus something Freeman.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
there's also like a picture of like the word protect or protection. So like he has enough letters where Letty's like, you got 11 out of 27 letters or something? Like that's not a bad start.
Right.
It's not bad.
But he's saying like it only works if they are in fact analogous to English, not to
anything else.
I think he says Chinese.
Oh yeah, I think like it's something he brings up Chinese and like that kind of throws everything off.
Right, exactly. Like if he's wrong, then the whole thing like is just coincidence and it doesn't actually match.
Yeah.
And in that moment is when he's down there decoding that he tells Letty, Montrose, Yahima, they didn't just walk away. Montrose killed them.
Yeah.
And Letty has a harsh reaction to that knowledge.
Also,
painful.
It seems like Tick knows this, but like we aren't given any indication like how he knows this. It's just like besides the fact like he knows the instinct that his dad did it, we don't get any evidence or proof. It's just like he's like, yeah, my dad did it. And I thought that was kind of interesting. You know what I mean?
Right. Again, this is me going back. My interpretation would be that the whole thing is Atticus knows from the way Montrose behaves. He knows because again, having been in the war, he knows what it looks like when you first killed someone.
Yeah.
And he's like, there's no other, like Yahima didn't just walk out. It's Montrose's guilt.
Yeah.
And the fact that he accepts the beating and everything, that makes him absolutely positive you killed them.
That makes sense. Yeah.
That's how
he knows Montrose didn't contest. Like he had his suspicions. Montrose didn't even contest it.
Mm-hmm.
He's absolutely correct. Montrose killed them.
He did it, Your Honor.
Yeah, and Letty has just a beautifully painful reaction to that. Let's see here. Montrose is hanging out with Stevie and a whole bunch of other drag performers.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they're talking very sweetly about Montrose and Stevie's relationship, and Montrose is kind of
he's just in the corner.
Feels very alien in his own world, and there's an implication that this is kind of the first time he's been in this space.
Yeah, it's like the first time, like clearly
because he kind of doesn't know where to go.
Yes, and it's clear that Stevie's friends know about them, but it's clear that it's kind of like more like a hookup thing than an actual relationship. It's like, oh, like you finally brought him around, like you're teasing him. But then Steve is like, yeah, but like, I don't see anyone else here with you guys, right? Like, I got a guy here, even if he's sulking in a corner.
Well, the uncomfortableness, so how I interpreted Montrose in that moment isn't that he was uncomfortable being there. I saw it as he was nervous because it was the first time he was there.
I agree.
Whereas he felt comfortable being with these people, being with these drag performers. He wasn't like outright like, oh, I don't belong here.
I wouldn't go necessarily that far either. I think there's a nervousness to it being his first time, but I also think that there is an uncomfortability not because like I'm uncomfortable because of these people. I'm uncomfortable because I don't know how to behave in this space.
Yeah.
I've never
this is new to him. Like
it's an uncomfortability of self, not of the people around him.
Yeah,
he's not judging them or uncomfortable because of who they are. He's uncomfortable because of recognition of who he is,
which is what makes the next scene like so powerful. Like for like,
right.
This is my favorite stuff of the episode is like, even though Montrose killed someone, seeing him deal with that and like coming to terms with his sexuality, and it's like that like everyone is allowed to be happy because like this dude has like been miserable this entire show. And it just takes like this. It takes Stevie to be like, "Hey, man, you can be happy. It's okay. Right. Like you can have fun with all the homies here." And it's really sweet. It's really good.
Yeah,
I agree.
Before we get to the big dance scene, we move back to Ruby and the gang from Marshall Fields hanging out on the South Side
at some cool bar.
And it's very exotic and exciting for all the white ladies.
Yeah,
they really like.
It's Stevie's bar, right?
Stevie's bar. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Ruby is bothered by it. She's there as Davenport, and she's bothered, so she leaves and is out in the back, and she smashes the vial, which we assumed meant it was the end, but it wasn't her last vial.
Yeah. She just wasn't going to keep it up anymore.
She just wasn't going to do it this night. She couldn't be in this space and be white.
Yeah.
There was something bothering her, feeling icky and gross
you can tell that, like, instead of those white people being there to, like, have fun, like, with the black people.
It's exploitation.
It's them like, oh, let's go see what the black people do. And it's, like, it's very exploitative and gross.
Yes.
And, like, they're not there to have fun with them. They're there to, like, wow, look at how different they are. I'm like, that's...
And for at least the blonde, it was sexual.
Right, and Ruby can't stand being on the other side of that, so she transforms back.
Yeah.
And
just the peeling of the skin.
Yeah,
it's so good.
Once she's done, she sees Hugh come out and push Tamara up against the wall and try to molest her.
Yeah.
And Tamara gets away, and he shouts off a real ugly slur.
Yep.
And Ruby just kind of absorbs that information,
Staring through a fence with
real upset
anger.
about it. Thinks on that for later. This is when we get the dance sequence with Montrose. Montrose slowly allowing himself to have this moment, allowing himself to be free in the moment, to let go and feel joy. He's sulking in a corner, and Stevie gives like this really sweet, empowered like little speech. And then it's just like it's like a slow couple minutes of this Montrose slowly starting to No. The speech was in the room. This is in the dance. He doesn't give a speech. It's just the dance is happening.
That's right. Okay.
The mood is there. The vibe is right.
Yeah, and
Montrose allows himself to let go.
Starting to feel it. Starts dancing with people.
And Montrose dances with Stevie, and Montrose pulls Stevie in for a tender kiss.
Yeah,
which we never have seen. And there's almost an implication they never have kissed before.
Yeah, because it was never romantic. It's always just been like, let's do this.
Not
thing.
as romantic, and certainly. And now here it is, and Montrose is fully accepting of this side of himself.
Yeah, it was beautiful, man, because it's not something you often really get to see. It's like a middle-aged black man getting to experience like pure gay joy. It's not something you really ever get to see in like the big screen or the small screen. It's just shows like this I really appreciate showing that not everything is in one way, you guys. It's I love this stuff. I thought it was really powerful.
I did too.
Yeah, same. I agree. I thought it was really good. From here, Ruby is waiting in William's home, the established home that they have there. And Christina comes up from the basement and locks the door. And right then Ruby says, "That's the only door that's locked in this whole house. The heck do you keep in the basement?" And right there, I think we all went, "That's the transformation room."
That's the skin room.
It goes down and Christina comes out.
That's the skin room. There's just dozens of skin jobs everywhere. That's where Hillary Davenport, her body's down there probably.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
The original.
The original, yeah.
So Christina has a conversation with Ruby because Ruby is very confronted about a lot of what she's seen now. And Christina has a very powerful thing she says to Ruby where she says, "You misunderstood William's offer. The offer isn't to be white. The offer is to do whatever the fuck you want."
Yeah, it's like magic is like it's the unlimited currency.
Yeah.
Like you could do literally whatever you want. Like that's what I'm giving you.
That's the offer.
Yeah. I mean, which is
that's what William's giving you.
Pretty sweet offer.
Yeah. So we go from that to her back as Davenport, which we thought she was done with. And in fact, she probably is.
Now after
but she's quitting as Davenport, and she says it's because she wants to sleep with Hughes so bad.
Oh, you're just so handsome. Oh my god.
So she seduces him. And
boy, guys.
Position.
And then
she starts metamorphosizing out of Davenport's body, and as she does it, she rapes Hughes with a stiletto.
So Cardi B starts playing, and there's
Cardi B.
There's literally a line about bloody stilettos, and I'm like, of course, you got to stab him in the butt with stiletto. A stiletto, the shoe, it's like an old Italian knife,
right?
Like, and I'm like, oh yeah, fashion, that makes sense. But I'm like, oh, it actually is an old knife. It's a knife right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that dude got what was coming. He's gross.
Oh yeah.
That gross transformation of the skin falling on him as he's getting stabbed in the butt, and like, wow, this is a scene Cardi B's playing. Like, my god,
that is a complicated. This episode is bookended by some really complex scenes of violence.
Yeah,
Atticus beating Montrose and Ruby raping a man.
Yeah,
that the stuff this show gets away with.
Yeah,
incredible.
Bravo.
That man had a bad day.
Well, he deserved it.
I'm not fully comfortable enough to say that anybody, even the worst people, deserve to be raped.
No, that's true. That's true.
I get the impulse.
I
like
seeing
a punishment to him for sure. But you're meant to be like Ruby. That might have been too much.
It was too much
because that is the demonstration of Ruby now knows I can do whatever I want with this.
Yes,
and I'm going to. And so she does. And is that morally right? The answer is no. It's not okay to rape somebody just because of that.
No.
Eye for an eye doesn't work.
But it is comforting to see a bad man get his comeuppance sometimes.
Karma is comforting.
Yes,
for sure.
I'm not gonna say
I agree with that.
I'm not gonna say like it was a great thing, but I also didn't go like, gosh darn, I'm poor guy.
Yes, exactly.
Oh God.
Yes, I just
Golly
wanted
gee
to
willikers, mister.
No, of course.
That, for sure. Yeah. Ruby does that. Ruby shows him her blood-covered body as she steps over him and says the same slur back to him. Did this to you?
Yeah.
Transformation sense is so good.
We cut to now something a little sweeter, which is Letty in the bath.
Oh yeah.
And Atticus comes up, and he has a whole conversation where he's saying to her that he didn't recognize it earlier, but he does now that they're special because Letty confesses to still having this nervousness of Atticus leaving, because that was something he was planning to do, and he admits that he understands that they're something special, and he regards her that way. And she asked him about being in love before, and he said that he thought he was.
Yes. Yeah. His phrasing was like, I don't know if it was love,
right?
But like it was pretty real.
And he says,
"Is this the first time we get the name of Jamie Chung's character, or was that in the last episode?"
Did we get her name?
Gia, right?
I don't think he gave her name. I think he said, I felt
we don't know her name yet because I know what her name is and we don't know it yet.
I fell in love with a woman over in Korea.
Yeah.
At least I think it was that. It ended in a strange way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, from judging from the next episode, oh man, what?
Yeah. I could have sworn that he said the name was Gia.
I know what her name is, Brandon. It's not that, I promise.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think we heard her name.
No.
Yeah. So that's, we were waiting for that kind of nugget to get hinted at, and obviously it is in a big way for the next episode, and it's there. But it's very nice to see Atticus acknowledging the bond between him and Letty that's forming.
They have great chemistry.
Ruby is waiting for William to get home at the house again, and William comes back, and he's like, I'll help you out, just to hold on one moment. And he seems to be trying to get to that closet, that locked door, but can't make it quite in time before Christina bursts her way out of his body.
Yeah, he didn't time it well enough. No.
A more practical and practiced transformation,
like
where
quicker.
Christina pulls from the back inside of his skin and pulls into the body.
That was some cool that was awesome. That is every transformation that we got got a little cleaner and cleaner, and this one just like, yo, I'm a pro at this.
And Ruby freaks out and is like, you were William this whole time, and we're left with that for probably a while. I doubt this will be addressed again next week.
Yeah.
Okay, real quickly, I apologize, I had to look it up. We do get the name of Gia. That is Jamie Chung's character's name.
It is Gia? What?
Yeah.
Weird.
Jiah.
Weird. I thought it was something else in the book. That's really weird. Okay.
It could have been something else in the book, but they changed it for the show.
Maybe.
And perhaps that the wiki is wrong too.
When did we get it? Because I don't remember getting it either.
It's in this episode, in that scene. At least that's what the wiki says.
Okay.
I believe you.
Yeah, so we leave Ruby and Christina on that moment, and we go back to Atticus, and Atticus has been translating, and he's really bothered by something he translated. So he goes and he calls that real long-ass number, and it's definitely Jamie Chung who picks up on the other end, as we suspected from the first episode. And he asks, how did you know? And he's very upset, and she's like, you understand? He's like, how did you know? And all we see is that on the paper, the only word we see is die written.
What he thought were his initials. Right? What we thought were his initials actually say die.
I'm not sure.
Oh, I didn't
jump to that, but sure, that could be it.
Oh,
that's how I interpreted it. That's how I interpreted it. It could be wrong.
I just assumed we were only seeing like one part of a longer thing he translated.
That's what I was assuming too.
And just like the part that said die, which is giving us an idea. But you got a good point that it is like 3 letters, just like it could be on the ring. Who knows?
Yeah. I like both those series work, I think.
Yeah. There's a preview for the next episode, and it looks like the next episode will entirely. It's going to be our
Watchmen
flashback episode where we're going to spend almost all of it in the past in the Korean War.
Yeah.
With Atticus's time with Jamie Chung.
Yep.
And things are going to go crazy.
Yeah. So just based off that little thing, it looks like they get into some culty shenanigans of some sort. I wasn't sure if the stuff from the Korean War was going to tie into like all this Lovecraft stuff now, the present stuff, but it appears it's strangely connected in a way.
Yeah. Well,
I just can't wait to see.
We knew. I guess I suspected when we saw Jamie Chung come out of the closet in the second episode. I think at that point I was kind of like, okay, so the stuff in Korea does somehow tie in, and then obviously there's the phone call in the first episode, like you shouldn't have gone back.
Yeah.
But I guess I wouldn't have been surprised if they were just like, oh no, it was something else. He had a different adventure. Yeah,
with so many threads and things, and like specifically like the ways that every episode's kind of different. Like it could really go in any direction, and some things might not be important that end up being important. It turns out Korea is real important. It's a whole episode.
Yeah. I'm very interested in how her character knows that going back there was going to lead to something. So
exactly.
Yeah.
That'll be fun to see.
I'm very excited for this next episode.
Yeah.
Halfway there, baby.
So because of that, I doubt we're going to see anything with Letty in the next episode.
Yeah.
I doubt we're going to find out what's up with Hippolyta.
Oh, sorry. Thank you for bringing up Hippolyta again. So Lancaster, the police chief guy, he's talking about lodge locations and stuff, and he brings up the observatory. The observatory is a major big thing in the book, and that's where a lot of Hippolyta stuff comes from. I don't know where it happens in the book. I just know that's where her story takes her to. So we are getting a Hippolyta episode probably after this one.
Yeah.
I'd assume.
Okay.
But we are also leaving Christina and William and Ruby's relationship in the lurch for now.
Yeah.
I doubt we'll be focusing on those story threads in the next episode. So we got some stuff to wait on.
Yeah.
And anticipate.
Yeah. Man.
What a show.
Yeah, man, I love this show so much. It's so good.
This is a great show. I'm loving it every episode.
Yeah, same. Fantastic. Super into it. Super into everything that's happening in it. I'm so glad we got a Ruby focused episode. I love her. Yeah, I think she's wonderful.
Me too.
I love that they just went for real complex storytelling with her. That they just had the guts to do that.
Yeah.
To just, what if she gets to be white? Woof. Lot to think about for where this is going to go.
Very exciting. The thing I just want to know who or what William is. That's my biggest.
I'm most comfortable with the theory that we all kind of collectively came to, that William is a creature summoned.
Yeah. That
Christina cared for and adopted in, and that William's human appearance is simply a facade appearance to connect with Christina and be able to share bodies, but not their true form, that they are in fact not human, and they do give Christina a lot of insight into other things. And I am very convinced. I was convinced already, but I'm super convinced after talking through this with all of you that Christina and William are two separate people. I firmly believe that. I do not think they are alter egos of one person.
Yeah, I agree.
Jeckyll and Hyde, baby. Love it.
Thank you for bringing that up, because I had made a note here to talk about it at the end of this episode of the idea that, you know, this episode is titled "Strange Case," clearly a reference to the strange case of Dr. Jeckyll and Mr. Hyde. Mm-hmm. Now, Dr. Jeckyll and Mr. Hyde are two different people. I mean, they're alter egos, but the idea is that Mr. Hyde is not the same person as Dr. Jeckyll. So I think that in itself is a subtle confirmation that William and Christina are not the same person.
Yes. Right. I would agree. I think we are looking at a Bruce and Hulk situation where it's not just Bruce got big and green.
Please.
They are two.
The comparison is clearly the Nutty Professor.
Wow, I haven't thought about that movie in a while.
I know, right?
Jesus. What's the guy's name? Professor Love?
Professor Love, yeah.
Buddy Love.
Buddy Love.
Eddie, come back. We miss you.
We should watch Dolomite.
We should watch Dolomite.
Dolomite's really good.
Watch Dolomite. Coming soon. No, I'm just kidding.
Dolomite's really good. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I think I'm all talked out on this one.
Me too.
Another.
I highly recommend the official podcast. Most of what they covered is a lot of talking about Montrose and the relationship between Montrose and Atticus. That's the majority of the episode. A little bit is spent on Ruby and her Davenport adventures and how that affects her character and how that felt in the writing room. But almost nothing is really actually said other than acknowledging that it happened and it's crazy about Christina and William.
Yeah. The name Davenport, it's a small character that has appeared in a couple of Lovecraft stories. There's no actual significance other than Davenport has been used before. That's a little
cool.
fun fact for you.
I am very interested in the fact that Ruby transforms into that lady specifically.
I know.
We'll have to see how that plays out. I'm convinced that it is just as simple as her dead body. They use her blood. That's how it works.
Yeah, because that other lady, no one needs her anymore.
Right.
You know? You can use her now. Yeah.
Okay, so that'll do it. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel, guys. We got a lot of cool stuff here. Don't forget to like this video. We should say that at the top of the episode, I think, but like this video. Subscribe to this channel. We got a lot of cool stuff on this channel. We got the Fake Nerd Book Club, which we're currently going through Power Rangers. Next episode soon, who knows? We have another Fake Nerds watch that we're talking about. We're going to do The Boys. Just a matter of when we're going to be able to do The Boys.
Boys.
That is coming though, so stay tuned on whenever that happens. Let's see what we got. The Fake Nerd Book Club. We got the Fake Nerds Watch. We got our Basement Arcade. Okay.
We'll get there. It's coming eventually.
Check out our other Basement Arcade episodes. There's a whole back catalog of stuff. Check those out. Then there's no, that's it. We also have our main show, the Fake Nerd Podcast, which we've been doing our quarantine cast every week on Sunday. This week, Saturday. We've been doing our live show. We've been doing our normal show that we used to just do audio. We've just been doing it live on YouTube, and we'll do that for as long as we're in quarantine. So check that out. What are we talking about? Dawn of X. We're talking about the X-Men books this week.
I've been taking notes, reading X-Men books. It's a good time. Good time to be alive.
Stay tuned for a lot of cool stuff from this channel. Until then, we're all at the Fake Nerd Podcast on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. FakeNerdPodcast.com. If you want to find all of our links to everything, our Patreon, our TeePublic. We're selling masks, guys. Hey, we're still quarantined. Get some masks. Get yourself a Fake Nerd Podcast mask. Support your show. Support your 7th favorite show. Who knows? You can find me at BT McClure on Instagram and Twitter. You can find Sparkz.
You can find me refreshing myself on the world of Hickman's X-Men at Sparkz Witty on Instagram and Twitter, SPARKZ Witty. Boy, am I glad I read those all recently. I'm just going to be going through and taking notes, and I can skim through most of it.
Yeah.
Ryan?
You can also find me doing that at DJ Tony Snark everywhere.
All right. Until next time, guys, stay Fake Nerds. I think that's a mustache. All right, who wants to intro this one?
All right, welcome to the Fake Nerds Watch, where we're all touching our mustaches.
Remember at the beginning of this quarantine, it's like nobody don't stop touching your face, and I'm just my hands are on my face 24 hours a day now. I'm just like, I have so much hand sanitizer. My hand sanitizer blew up on me because it gets hot in my car, so I can't. It was a standing upright. And I grabbed it, I opened it, and it went, and it was hot sanitizer on me. I'm like, ow! Oh no! Ow! I wanted to spread it because it was all hot, because I don't want to fling it everywhere. I was just like a hot soda bath for a second.
Oh, man.